Alright then guys, hi there, it's the Bayou Cartographer, and today I'll just be talking you through sort of the basic training mode of Hunt Showdown. This is the first mode you'll be thrown into. I have a feeling it's compulsory, but it's been quite a while since I played the tutorial, and I'm not about to shell out 20 quid to find out if it is. But I'll just talk you through it, and we'll talk through some of the basics together, and we'll get going. But this is the basic thing that you'll be thrown into, and I think is not a great representation of Hunt Showdown as a whole, unfortunately, but is a good way of getting you introduced to the game and the controls and basically how it works, but isn't reflective of your usual play style when you start playing or the things that make Hunt Showdown so great. So as you can see, we've got 4 suggested steps here. Number 1, locate the target. Number 2, kill the target. Number 3, banish the target. And number 4, extract the bounty token. And that is exactly what we'll be doing in online games of Hunt Showdown, but perhaps not quite so straightforward. And we'll talk through some of that as we go along, so you're just not looking at a loading screen. So the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to load us into the mission. This happens in every game, really. We have to go through this waiting session. What some people don't know is you can leave the game whilst it says preparing mission and not lose your hunter. That's absolutely fine. We've been given some really good guns here. I think that's because I've loaded in with my loadout rather than the loadout that the game usually gives us. If you press the tab button, which is the default map button, you can see the map as a whole. Because it's on basic mode, a lot of the different areas have been cut off to us, and that's completely fine. But again, not really reflective of how things will work. So as you can see, we've got all these name locations here: Cypress Hutch, Pitching Crematorium, Lockby Docks, and those are things that will be really well familiar to you when you start playing. But the first thing we need to do is start finding clues so that we can find out where their boss is hiding. So I believe the default is F for Dark Sight, but you'll load into this game mode here, and you'll be able to see here all the locations that you can go to for some clues. So you can see here there's different blue spots, but what you might notice is some blue spots are slightly bigger than others. And really interestingly, if you listen, some of the blue spots are louder than each other. So that's really good. So sound is really important in this game. So you can hear here, and you can hear here. So that's just an indicator of how close different markers are to you, different clues. And we're going to start moving. So as you're moving around the map, what's the important thing to remember is you need to balance sound and speed. So if I were just to sprint around the map, you can see here there's some crows. If I was to go for sort of this marker, for example, and I was just sprinting around and there's some crows here, and I scared those crows away, and let's say there's a zombie here and I shot him, fine, I'm moving very quickly, but the problem is it's going to raise attention and people are going to know we're coming. However, the alternative is if we were going for this clue here and I was crouching around very slowly and I was sticking to the bushes, and I was taking sort of 10 minutes each time just to scope it around from this angle and just make absolutely sure no one was here, then we'd never get anything done. And more importantly, the slower you move and the more stationary you are, the easier you are to get a headshot. And Hunt Showdown is another one of those games where headshot is king. If you get hit in the head, a lot of the time it will be a one-hit KO. Now on basic mode, the zombie spawn rate has been reduced significantly, unfortunately. So again, this isn't really reflective of how you play the game, but that's fine. I'll still show you some of the basics. Some of the basic things to introduce you to are sort of running around. So running can be heard from quite a while away. Just walking is a bit more quieter. Crouching is quite quiet, but still can be heard. There's no way really to make yourself completely silent. There are some perks which can help mitigate this. There are sound traps throughout the map. So I've introduced you to the crows. There's also the ducks. I'll point others out as we go along. You can see here there's a whole compound with crows and such lining up, and in a minute you'll probably be greeted with some zombies. Now So we know that there's a clue in here. Oh no, there's some zombies here. So there's a couple of different ways that we take out zombies. So the first is shooting. Now shooting is very loud and is usually reserved for other PvP type players just because of how loud it is. And as you can see here, it can also set off some other sound traps. So we've got some dogs in a cage here. And I've triggered them with that gunshot. Now I can take a shot at the lantern which will kill them. But the problem being, that's another gunshot, that's another loud sound. There are other ways of mitigating that. We could maybe have used some throwing knives, some other things, but I've had to use a gunshot because I've got no silent way of just killing those dogs. Another sound trap you'll be introduced to, horses. Now some horses are dead, some are barely alive, and these barely alive ones will whinny you and scream at you. And the best thing to do for these is to put them out of their misery and knife them. And that will be nice and silent, especially if you get there quick enough. And now that we're on to the subject of knives, you can see here I've got a very fancy pane of glass wrapped in some fabric. This is probably your most quiet way of getting rid of grunts and low tier enemies in the game. If you run around and knife them, and if you knife them in the head, it'll be a one-hit KO. I've done a terrible job there. But you can see here, it's not drawing too much attention. It is drawing attention from the immediate area, but less so than if you were just shooting people. Now, you might be wondering, why aren't I just knifing everyone as soon as they come to me, especially that last chap? And some of the more eagle-eye amongst you might notice that yellow bar behind us or below my health bar. So you can see in my health taking hits. We will talk more about bars in the and health bars and the size of health bars in the character section and choosing a character in the rostering. And you can also see there your stamina. So if I go for a knife, you can see your stamina go down. Now what's interesting is Hunt has sort of a 2-level system to stamina. So if I knife, it reduces some stamina, but that's fine. I can still sprint for quite a long time before my character gets winded. So as I sprint around, you'll see in the bottom left, my character will develop a sort of a man looking out of breath, and also will sound out of breath. It might take me a little bit while because I've got a perk which is helping me stay more in breath. But you can see here my stamina is not really going down, and that's because stamina and sprinting are working off two different systems. So if I were to keep knifing and reduce my stamina to 0, eventually I wouldn't be able to do a proper knife anymore. I'd be too tired. And that's because they're sort of linked but not entirely linked. So if I were to knife and then sprint, you can see my stamina is not increasing. But if I were just to stay still and let my character catch his breath, you can see the stamina slowly starts to come up. So if you run out of stamina, you just need to stop running and let it go up by itself. Again, there's other perks, other items that you can help do that. If I were to pop a stamina shot, for example, like this, you can see here in the bottom left that stamina sign's come. That's 5 minutes of unlimited stamina, which may or may not be a very good investment for you. You need to see how you feel about things. Anyway, I've been standing around talking for some time. Let's crack on. So as you can see here, we've got into our first clue. What's important to note about this clue is it's you can see here the cracked surface. Hunt has really deep mechanics to it. You might not see it from surface level, but if this was completely clear, and you'll see it in a minute, it might indicate that someone's been here before us. But because this is completely clean, or just slightly cracked, sorry, we know we're the first ones here to this clue. Whereas as you can see, when we do that, it fades away. If you were to come across the clue and it looked like that, you know you are hot on somebody else's heels. So if you look at the map, you can see it's eliminated some of the locations, Lockby Docks and Cypress Huts, and we now need to aim in on some of these other locations. Now the problem being, as we collect clues, other players are collecting clues and the map is shrinking for them, and the problem is it's slowly funneling people towards each other, and you will have to get into some PvP elements, which are some of the best elements in the game. So this is a red barrel which can be blown up. There's different types of barrels. We will come to them in different videos. I won't get too bogged down. This is another sound trap. So just like the dogs, we have chickens here. You can hear them going crazy wild. Again, I've got no way of silencing them, so I can shoot, or I can just walk on and hope no one was close enough to hear them. Now, Other things on the map that you might be interested in, so you might see these little arrows. These are our extraction points. Now that's really important because if the boss was at Cypress Huts, that's a very easy extraction, whereas if the boss was at Lock Bay Docks, that's going to be a very difficult abstraction. And what we need to remember is Hunt has so many different varying play styles that the issue is some people might camp the spawn, some people might camp the boss, some people might go for the boss and they just camp there until people come and run and meet them. Other people might camp the extracts and wait for you to run past them. Others might wait in here, the middle bit, and then see which way you're going and then come and try and meet you. There's loads of different tactics and you're just going to have to cope with it. Anyway, let's crack on. So let's, for example, say that I wanted to go to Pitching Crematorium. I can either look on the map or I can look on my dark site. So having a look and having a listen. They're probably around the same distance, but for me, what I'm thinking is if I go Pitching Crematorium, it's easy for me to hit Healing Waters Church. If I go to Davant Ranch, it's still easy for me to hit all of them, really. There's no real difference, but I much prefer being at Pitching Crematorium than the other objectives on this, and it'll get me to show you a different thing that you can see on the map. So let's start running. So as we're running, again, we're needing to balancing speed and also sound. I am sprinting because we're in a nice open area. I can see that there's no one around. Obviously, that's not always the case. Some people might be sitting in bushes, but aha, what have we come across here? So on the map, you might have noticed these wheel wagons. These are different areas where you can restock on the map. So you can see here I've got some tools and equipment. I can use this equipment. So this is a trip mine, another sound trap, or something we can maybe trap other people on that red barrel, for example. But again, that comes in a different element of the game. Or let's say we've used some ammo, we can also restock our ammo. There's also health, there's also special ammo, which again will be covered in another mission, and in some locations there's also a toolbox for us to recover some equipment, but again that has not happened here. And also a lantern, which we will cover at a different time. So let's keep moving to Pitching Crematorium. So like I said, I can see there's no one around. I've got my unlimited sprint. Let's just take advantage of that and let's sprint as fast as we can. So I can hear crows barking. I'm going to ping that for my teammates and I'll cover that again in a different video on traversing around the map. Oops, I've set off that sound trap, so anyone within a compound or two really is going to hear those and make a note of that probably. I've set off another grunt, it's fine. Anyone within the compound might have heard that, but that's not going to be a far-reaching thing. Aha, here's another clue. Cracked surface on the first one here. I can see more ammo if I need it. I can't use that ammo, but the ammo blocks are pretty universal. Let's check our map. Let's narrow it down to Healing Waters Church or the Slaughterhouse. So let's maybe go to Healing Waters Church just again. It's just closer, really, more than anything. I've got no other real preference. We'll knife some of our zombie friends as we move. Now, I believe the game, as you first start, gives you a silenced Officer Nagant and possibly a Winchester or Winfield, sorry, as the starting gun. Those are both completely fine, solid starting weapons, but I feel like these tutorial missions weirdly encourage you to... It's not how you would play the game. I would have a look at some of my other videos to how you would actually play the game. That is something we will cover, but oh, actually whiffed that. Oh, I whiffed it again. So you can see here I'm going to have to go for my slow knife, which is far less effective, but I can still knife this guy over the fence. So let's move on to our next clue, Healing Waters Church. Having a look around, I can't really see any other players or signs that other players have been here, no dead bodies. I can see some traps that are still unclaimed. I could throw them down if I wanted to. Another one of our sound traps, so these are broken glass, you can hear as I walk over it. Now if I crouch, I'm almost silent through that, so that's a really good thing to note. Maybe, for example, I wanted to put down a trap for anyone who runs through here carelessly. That would set that off. But again, that's just my play style. You might not do that. You might not even have those tools equipped. That's absolutely fine. Let's find that clue. Let's come over here. Oh, some guards around the clue. That's fine. Let's get rid of them, and let's claim the clue. So, taking that, it must be at the slaughterhouse now. There is literally no other location for it to be, and you can see in the top left the target located. So the icon is showing what boss it is, and that's the butcher, and also how many clues we've claimed. So that's 3 out of a possible 3. You can also see now that we've confirmed the location, the map just straight up notices it for us and draws a circle around it. So let's stop messing around and let's go straight towards it. So I now need to think, how am I going to manage this boss? And that is something that again, I feel like I'm saying it a lot. We'll cover in a different video all the different boss techniques, but there's different ways. If you're in a rush, you could perhaps shoot it. That's probably faster. But again, you need to be balancing speed and sound. If, for example, you got to the boss really quickly and you wanted to keep that on the down low, what you might do is try and be really silent and just hit it with knives or as a team. Whereas if you got there quite late and you'd already killed all the other players on the map, it doesn't really matter, so you might as well go ahead and shoot. So we can see here this boss has either taken a toll on some of the other hunters in the map, or perhaps they got into a fight and killed each other, because we can see some dead bodies. So if we wanted to, we could loot some of their equipment, or loot the hunters themselves and get some of the tools that we've used along the way. Now, looking at their guns, I've got some quite high level guns, so I think I might leave these ones behind. But again, you can form judgments and pass judgments on other players about their weapons. So this person had 2 fairly low level weapons, so I could say they're probably quite a low, either running cheap loadouts or not really bringing much to, or fairly new to the game, or maybe new to a prestige. Again, that's absolutely fine. What we might do is we might save some of these bodies for later, and I'll show you why. So you can hear the hunter, the butcher, sorry, running around. Let's go ahead and kill him. So again, we need to balance up. So I thought to myself, well, a lot of the other players on the map have now been killed. And what we can do is we can just go ahead and shoot it. The boss will, of course, fight back. And you can see the butcher has thrown a lamp at me, and they're taken off some of my health with fire. Again, we'll cover health bars in a different video completely, but it's worth noting that the bosses are, you know, bosses. They're not to be trifled with. They'll probably do a lot more enemies than your usual grunts. Setting off more crows there, just repositioning after that fire went off. What I was looking for really is just anything I could maybe hit the boss with, but there doesn't seem to be anything, so I'm just going to go with shooting the boss. We're going to work away at his life. Again, the game is, because we're on the easy tutorial, giving us only 25% of the health to take off the boss. And that is because we're at this lower tutorial. So you can see here I've taken some burning damage. Now, burning damage is feared amongst the hunt community because it burns off your health bars. You can see in the bottom right now I'm missing a whole big bar of health because it's burnt away. That can also happen is if you die and your teammate revives you, you will lose a bar at a time. And there's a lot of tactics and discussion to be had around, you know, lots of small bars versus a few big bars. And we'll get onto that again another time. But you can see here I've lost a whole bar. But no worries, because as I claim my first banish, I will get all my health back. Now, again, the game has expedited how quickly it takes for us to banish the boss because we're by ourselves in a training mode. That's fine. Again, in real life, it would take a lot longer, but I'm going to use the opportunity in a quiet moment to refill my ammo and maybe reclaim some ammo and ammunition box. Again, if I'd killed some members of the other team and I didn't want them to revive each other, I could consider burning them, but because they're all dead, it's no problem. Now that I've killed the boss, I can claim a bounty, so that announces it to the entire map. So as soon as you pick that up, the entire map will be aware and will know. And it'll be marked on the map. You can see here there are some lightning marks around my position. Everyone will be able to see that, and you might think, gosh, that's unfair. It's not quite, because the trade-off for that is A, you have the bounty, and B, you have wall hacks. So you can't really see it here, but if I were surrounded by enemy players, that whole map would give me wall hacks essentially on where they are, and I can call that out to my teammates. In the bottom left, you can see how long I have left of that ability before it runs out. And that can be refilled via certain ways. And that the colour of the enemies is like the colour of my hands, that orange colour. And I've only got 5 seconds, and then it runs out, and I've got nothing. You can see here there was some lightning above my head that would also indicate where the bounty team are. If I were to kill some players after I claimed the bounty and looted them, I would gain 1 second back per loot. Again, we don't really have that here. I imagine that's because it's part of the training mode rather than anything else. Anyway, now that we've got the bounty, the next thing we need to do is extract via one of these positions. So I'm going to go obviously for the one that's right next to me. I've got no reason to make things harder or longer for me than I usually do. And now that I'm announced to the whole map, it does not matter how loud I am. I can just go for full speed because we do not need to balance that anymore against silence or quietness. We can just go ham. So again, at the extraction point, people do different things. Some people like to shoot zombies. Some people like to keep a really low profile. If I were to get shot here and die, my team would not be able to extract. So it is worth keeping a low profile. Some people like to throw choke bombs and create a little smoke screen around the position, but we need to wait out that timer until the final second. And here we are. And once we've done that, we have completed our first set of contracts. And that is the basic premise of Hunt. That is not exactly how it pans out in real life. What I think I'll do for this video is just attach it to a different video, or at least link it to see how you would play in real life, just because it's very, very different. But those are the basic concepts. This game has a lot of depth, a lot of different mechanics going on, and it is absolutely rich in play styles. Really good. One of the best things about Hunt Showdown. I would recommend, I guess, having a go at the training modes, just because A, it gives you some premium currency, and B, it just gets you familiar with the game. But apart from that, I wouldn't take too much from it, because the play styles that you gain from doing the training mode do not in any way match how you would play in real life, unfortunately. This has been the Bayou Cartographer. Please check out the rest of the tutorials I'll be doing on getting started in Hunt. I hope you're all well, and I'll catch you on a different video.